Hello and hi to another episode of the Josie Dumont podcast. Today I am joined by Jeanne Collins, who left the corporate world behind to find her true self through design and founded an award-winning interior design firm called JerMar Designs. I hope I said that right.
You did.
Amazing. She also just recently published her memoir called 2 Feet in which she shares valuable life lessons learned from divorce, career changes, motherhood, and more. And I cannot wait to ask you all about it, Jeanne. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Josie, for having me. I'm excited to talk to you.
Yes, this is going to be like so good. And to kick it off, I'd love to share a quote from your book to really kick off the very first question that I literally ask all of my guests. And the quote is, "At 52, I am living my best life, mentally, physically, and professionally. I live in a beautiful home, in a town that I love. My only boss is me, and I've never been more passionate about my work. A newfound sense of calm flows through my days, and every morning I wake up, place my feet on the ground, and know I am where I'm supposed to be. Life is not perfect, and I'm still working on that whole true love thing, but now I approach my problems differently. That's the 2 feet in philosophy. It means committing to my choices 100%. So the obvious question, and I love this quote, I have for you here is, how did you get to this place in life and where you are today?
What a good question. Because that's so true. I'm listening to you read it and I was like, yeah, okay, that's still true. Like I wrote that and like, that's still life. So that's good. We're still there. That's a good thing. And it's almost 2 years later since I wrote that sentence or that paragraph. I got here with a lot of work, to be honest, which is one of the reasons that I wrote the book, because if I was able to share my stories with people and what I did and how I got there and how I accomplished that, and give some resources to the things I did, that might help people fast track it a little bit and not have to wait till you're 52 to figure it out. So it happened through a lot of things. It happened through a lot of changes in my life, let's say, getting divorced, being a single parent, losing my job right before I was 50. And that really was the big turning point because I really felt like I was defined by my job. And so I got fired from my big VP job and I'd been there for 11 years. And that was really, my life because I work for a public company in the States and, I work for Wall Street. So you're only as good as your last quarter. And I work 24/7. And I got fired right before I turned 50. And that was such a pivotal turning point for me in my life. And I think that's really what is like the one thing that happened that has gotten me to where I am, because I had to really sit back and think about my life and who I was and what I wanted to be and what I want my life to be like. And, I kind of sat back and I was like, okay, that you read about this stuff and it's kind of cliche, but it's true. If you really think about it, what are you going to put on your tombstone? And I was like, vice president of sales isn't going to be it. So what is it? And, I was given a coach to help me write my resume and stuff like that after I got fired. And she was like, so what are your hobbies? I'm like, I'm a mom and I work. It's like, I'm so boring. No wonder why I don't have a boyfriend. Like, oh my goodness, you're not doing anything. Like, there's no excitement. Like, this is it. Of course you're boring. And then I really kind of was like, okay, we have to change that. Like, I need to change that. And so I made a massive mindset shift, which was, we all call it work-life balance. I don't know why. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to change that. My mentality going forward is life-work balance. And I have to work. Of course, everybody has to work. We all have to work. We have to make money. I'm no different. I haven't won the lottery yet. But I'm not going to work at the cost of life. And every decision that I've made since I made that mindset shift has been about life first. And living with my life that way has drastically changed everything that's happened since. Along with like another 2 hours worth of conversation. Yeah. But that kind of sums it up for you in 5 minutes. Sums it up in about 5 minutes for you.
I love that. And I love it because I can really relate to your story, actually, because I went through divorce as well. So I left my ex-husband 3 weeks after the wedding, which is a totally different story too.
And go, girl.
Yeah. And I burnt out. And then after burning out, for me, it was also like, things need to change. And I literally said the same thing. I was like, it's not work-life balance. It's life-work balance. I need to schedule my life first, and then work comes separate.
Yeah. And it's interesting, because I was talking to someone else just recently about that, and they asked me to give an example. And I said, okay, here, I'll give a perfect example. I said a couple weeks ago, I had to go meet a client at 5 o'clock. I was meeting a friend for dinner, not until 7:30, because at 6:30, I had agreed to go to a gallery event in the hopes of meeting someone for networking that I wanted to meet. And the gallery event was about half an hour away, super fancy, private opening, got my name on the list. I was going for networking. And I was so stressed all afternoon because I had to go
Mhm.
from one place to meet a client on a construction job site, tons of sawdust, not going fancy there. Had to go home, feed the dogs, get all dressed up to then go half an hour away to this gallery event to be there for maybe half an hour, 45
Yeah.
minutes to then turn around to come back and have dinner with my girlfriend, who I hadn't seen in a long time. And we had committed to having dinner before I committed to the gallery event. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? The gallery event, I might meet someone great, but you know what? It's got to go. Like it has to come out of the equation. And I cut it out of the equation. And I sent a note and I said I was really sorry. And I didn't go to the gallery event. And it's good because I didn't have the time and I was trying to fit too much in. And I could have chosen the gallery event and told my girlfriend, I'm not coming to dinner. Could have
Mhm.
easily done that. But I didn't make that choice because I didn't want to not have that part of life come first. And so I chose my girlfriend over the gallery event. And that was the right thing to do.
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So
Because
it's
those are
just
the
like a
moments you can't
mindset
get
shift.
back. Yeah, it really
Exactly. It's just
is.
like a mindset shift. And sometimes you have to just say no to certain things. And when you have that lens, that's the lens of how you make decisions,
Mhm.
um, it helps you decide what it is you're going to do and how you prioritize because there's only so much time in the day.
That's so true. And obviously in your book you mentioned, but I mean the whole book is called 2 Feet In, right? So tell me more about this philosophy. How did you create it and what does it really mean to live by that?
So I didn't realize that was the philosophy of how I live life until I wrote the book. And I wrote the book and I gave the first copy of the book to a friend of mine who's also a writer. And, in total nervousness, like, oh my goodness, like I'm giving you my firstborn child. Here's what it felt
Yeah.
like. Like, here's my life. Here's the vulnerability. It's all out here written down. And I gave it to him and asked him to read it. And I said, I want honest feedback before it goes to the editor or anything. And he came back and he's the one who said, your biggest message is how you live life. And he goes, you live 2 feet in. You make decisions. You don't look back. You don't let the doubt that most people have prevent you from moving forward. And all throughout your story, you demonstrate that throughout your story, you live 2 feet in. And he's like, that should be the title of your book. And I was like, oh my goodness, I love that. You're so
Genius.
right. I was like, you're genius. You're so right. And then I Googled 2 feet in and there's like a children's story called 2 feet in on Amazon. And I was like, oh, that name's taken. But it's different in the book world. It's not like a website where you can't do it. And it just kind of kept sticking with me. And I kept trying to come up with different titles. And I was like, that actually is really it. And he's right. And I do, it's like when I was 6 months pregnant when I decided to get divorced the second time. And who does that, right? Just like you, like who gets divorced 3 weeks after? I do those
Some
things.
people
Yep.
do.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I've been there, done that. And no one gets divorced when you're 6 months pregnant. But once I mentally made the decision that was the right choice for me, I had to move forward and just jump all in that this is what is happening and let the fallout happen and not let the chatter that happens in your mind prevent you
Mm.
because that is our biggest problem. That's what prevents us from moving forward is the chatter and the self-doubt. And so, through a lot of work and mindset work and journaling, I've been able to quiet that chatter and help myself make decisions and then commit to them fully and just trust that the universe has my back and it's going to work out. And it always does. It doesn't always work out the way you think it will or the way you planned it, but that's
Mhm.
okay. It does when I reflect back. I'm like, everything does work out for the best.
100%. Like no one plans to have a divorce or like
No,
is being fired or burns out or like you don't plan for these things, but
no.
then they happen. And I love what you said about um like shutting down that chatter. And I want to ask you like how did you feel in that moment? Like what kind of like emotions did you go through and how did you work through them?
So you have so many emotions, right? Because when you make these big life decisions, right? When you're agreeing to make massive change in your life, it's incredibly fearful. It is scary. It is scary to make big change. Um, it's exciting because if you look at it with the right mindset, it's like, oh, wow, the possibilities, you never know what could happen. But it's also sad too, because a lot of times there's change and there's hurt to someone else, or there's change and there's loss. And that loss could be someone in your life, people that you work with, it can be anything, moving. There's a loss. And so there's a lot of emotions that have to happen. And I've just found I let myself live with those emotions, but I don't let myself stay with any of the negative emotions for too long. And so I have a rule that I go by, which is my 24-hour rule, which is I can complain about something. I can be sad about something. I can be upset about something, but I give myself 24 hours. And after 24 hours, I have to let it go and I have to move on. Because if I don't, I hold on to it for too long. And I always used to say to my team and people who work for me, I'm like, you can call me bitch, moan, complain all you want. You have 24 hours to do it. After that, we're not talking about it anymore. We're not talking about it anymore, right? You can be upset. You lost a deal. So-and-so didn't approve this. Your client did that. Your quota's too big, whatever, right? 24 hours. And then we have to move on. And I think that also has really helped me mentally not stay in the negative chatter. Because it's like, okay, new day, time to move on. Time to move on. Time
I love
to
that.
figure out. And also just acknowledge, like making ourselves somewhat accountable for our own lives, which, we don't do very often. And it's like, make yourself accountable for your life. Like, okay, this has happened. Enough of the victim. This has happened. Make yourself accountable for what happens next and make yourself accountable for each day. And when you do that, it's amazing what you can accomplish.
Absolutely. It's taking ownership and leadership of your own life and not like, as you say, being the victim in this whole story. No, you make yourself the hero because you're the only person who can get yourself out of this shithole.
Correct. Right. And it's your life. Like,
like why not? Why wouldn't you do that?
Right. Make yourself accountable for your life. It's yours. So that also means that you are the director of your own life. You are the designer of your life. And I talk about this all the time. I'm like, you are the designer of your life. You can design whatever you would like your life to look like. And so be proud of that and own that and make that empowering so that you can feel like you can create the life to get to be like the beginning of my book, which I really am living my best life. And that doesn't mean every day is great, folks. Like, let's be honest. That's not how this works. But I am the designer of my own life and recognize that I can create whatever I want in that life.
That would have been my next question about the being a designer of your own life. And what other things or like maybe actions or maybe also more around like embodiment would you recommend someone to start doing, to including in their day-to-day life so they can become the designer of their life? So one obviously is not holding on to like grudges or negativity for longer than 24 hours, which is great. That's an amazing tip. But is there anything else where you're like, this is actually like a natural thing for me to do and something I would recommend to anyone?
Journaling would be my thing. And ironically, on the day that we're posting this, I'm posting something on Instagram about journaling. I do Motivational Monday videos, and today is the journaling day. Journaling has actually changed my life. And for so many reasons. And you don't have to journal for long. I journal every morning for about 5 minutes. But I also journal, in longer formats or different times. And so I have found journaling is so helpful because it's pen to paper, which is really important to get it out. And so I journal, I'll talk journaling two ways. One, I journal every morning. I have a journal. It's called the 5-Minute Journal. You can buy it on Amazon. And you start your day with 3 things that you're grateful for. And it is so good for your mindset to focus on what you're grateful for. And sometimes I am grateful for, the sun. Like it's sunny today. The grass is starting to grow. It's getting green. Sometimes I'm like, it's more in depth, like my creativity or the people in my life who are helping me. Sometimes it's just like, you know what, my rug is soft this morning and that made me feel good when I got up. It's like it can range from anything. Right. So I write about 3 things that I'm grateful for. And then I write about 3 things that would make my day great that I can personally do for my day. So what would make me feel good at the end of the day to feel like it was a great day? That were actions that I took, not things that happened to me, things that I proactively did. And then you write about your daily affirmations or your intentions. What are you trying to do? And I find by starting putting that pen to paper, it really helps my mindset get in the right place. And then if I am trying to process something or trying to think about, what do I want to do with this? Or how do I solve this? Or how do I approach this issue with a client? Or how do I create the next marketing piece or whatever it might be, I then will journal more long form. And I've been able to teach myself to make it's like a brainstorm. It's a data
Mm-hmm.
dump. It's a whiteboard exercise, right? And so and we all know what a whiteboard exercise is, right? It's like you just get up and you write words, and that's okay. And it doesn't have to have any format. And it can be, I literally just start writing words on a page about whatever that situation is and how I feel about that. And then I also start to write about, well, what's the desired outcome? What am I really looking for? What am I trying to
Yeah.
get to? And I find by writing it and just like there's a part of after you start to write it for a little while, your brain stops controlling what's happening. And it's amazing how you come up with the solutions to what your next steps can be because your brain knows what those are. You just have to get the chatter to stop talking for that to come out. And so that I encourage people all the time when you're struggling, just journal. And it might not happen the first time. I've got books like this thick about journaling about certain
Yes.
subjects, but I have found it's really helpful because you see some clarity to it, especially when you look through and you look for common themes. If you do it a couple days in a row, and then your body will also start to bring the positive out that you might not be recognizing either.
Oh my gosh, yes. I literally always tell like clients, but also friends, like you already have all that you need. Like all the answers are already within you. You just need to
Yeah,
listen. And
yeah, right.
journaling is the best way to listen to yourself because if you allow yourself to, as you say, just brain dump everything, like just let it flow, just write whatever, kick it off with one sentence and then add another one, you would suddenly be like, oh yeah, I do know the answers.
Yeah,
And then it's
yeah.
about trusting yourself and doing the thing, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, you definitely do. It's cool. And then once you
Mm-hmm.
do it, after you do it, and then you see some clarity, you're like, oh, wow. Okay. I got to do that again. And then it becomes repetitive. And it's the same. I do the same exercise when I'm really struggling with something and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure what the path is. It's like, okay, let's journal about all the times that it did work out okay. And once you get going with that, then you can it helps build self confidence that in your decision making and in the fact that it will work out okay. And the universe does have your back when you can see on a piece of paper all the times that it did actually work out.
Do you have like a specific memory of when you were like journaling and you had like an incredible aha moment or like a download in that moment where like, oh my gosh, yes, like this and nothing else?
It does happen a lot
Mm-hmm.
where I get clarity on what I should do next. Or I'll get ideas that come to me. And it happens a lot in business where I feel a little bit stuck and all of a sudden be like, oh, yes, okay, that's what I need to do. I need to do this 4-page marketing brochure. And like it comes to me and I see the
Mm-hmm.
marketing brochure and I see the purpose of it. And I'm like, okay, I need to do that. And let's do that. And then if you can get it done, you can get it out next week and you can send it to this person, this person. Like the idea comes to me and and I had it for an event I was doing just recently. And all of a sudden I was like, I was doing an event. I was meeting a whole bunch of real estate agents because I'm an interior designer. I was meeting a whole bunch of real estate agents. And I was like, oh my goodness, I need a brochure. And like literally, I'm writing about something and I was like, I need a brochure. And literally, like, I got up, I designed it all in Canva, I sent it off to the printer. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
can you make this? I need like 30 of these. Can I
Yeah.
get this in like a couple days? And magically we did. And it was so great to be able to have that. But that came out of journaling and me journaling about, what should I be doing next for marketing? Like, how do I make more connections? How do I make my platform more impactful? And that, I was just kind of writing about random things that I could be doing. And that came up and I was like, yes, that's it. And then I saw the journal, like I saw the brochure,
Mm-hmm.
like in my mind, I saw it. And then that really helped me create it because I saw it.
So you literally combined like intuition, your journaling, and visualization
Yeah. All in one.
all
Yeah.
in one.
All in one. And then I was like, oh my goodness, get me on my computer. Like, okay, this is nice.
Yes.
I was going to meditate, but now we're going to go right. So, because, like I
Mm-hmm.
won't be able to focus on meditating. It's already now in my mind. And so then I go and I create it. And it's like, and it was such an impactful. Everyone was like, oh, this is beautiful. This is so great. I'm so glad you brought this.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. Good
Was
idea.
was it similar for your book when you were writing your book? Did you like already see like the cover? Did you see like how you want to kind of like unfold the story? Like how was the book writing journey for you?
So that's
Curious.
actually another interesting story. So I had always said as an interior designer, I was maybe 2.5 years. I've only been an interior designer for 4 years because this is the second career. So I was maybe 2.5 years in. And I have a degree in communications, and people would say, do you want to write a book? You want to write a book? You want to write a book? And I was like, I'm like every designer. Who wouldn't love a coffee table book of your project sitting on someone's coffee table in some big glossy format, right? I would love a coffee table book of my projects. However, A, I didn't have enough projects at the time to create one. And B, I really felt like I wanted my coffee table book to be different. I wanted to teach people something, and it hadn't come to me yet what I wanted them to learn in terms of design and their homes. It hadn't come to me yet. So I wasn't there. But I always said, in the future, yes, I do want to write a book. And so I had subscribed a while ago to some company that helps with self-publishing a book. And I just subscribed to their newsletter to, just read and learn. And I got an email from this guy who was like, we're doing a free 1.5-hour Zoom class on how to write a book, how to become an author. And I read the email, and it kind of like made me pause. And I was like, that's kind of interesting. And then I closed the email. And then a reminder came like the day before, like about this. I opened it again. I was like, it made me pause the first time. It made me pause the second time. I looked at my calendar. My calendar was open for that 1.5 hours. And I was like, you know what? Let's just do this. Let's just see what this guy, I don't know who he is. I saw him on Instagram. Let's see what he has to say. And so I joined the Zoom call. So after 1.5 hours of that Zoom call, the last half an hour was mind mapping. And mind mapping, for people who don't know what mind mapping is basically a brainstorm data dump. And you start, it looks like a sun, and there's a circle in the middle, and you put your main purpose, and then there are lines that go out. By the time we were done at the end of the 1.5 hours, I had my entire book right there, the whole thing. And I was just standing there staring at it. And I was like, oh my goodness, I have a whole book. Because I started off with, people always say to me, your stories are so inspiring. And I'm like, I'm just a normal person. Like, I'm not that, I'm not that interesting. I'm just a normal human. But everyone always says my stories are inspiring. And so I thought, I wrote it all down. I had the whole thing. I had the plot, the subjects, the chapters, the sub-chapters, the whole book was right there on a piece of paper. And as soon as that call ended, I was like, okay, I'm going to write a book. I'm going to write this. And I did it because I thought, if one person can help themselves to make changes and get inspired by what I've done and take action to live a better life, that would be worth the journey of writing a book. And so like it was there. And now, is the final version the same as that mind map? No, it's not the same, but it is, however, very similar, because in the center was the overall purpose of why you write it. And the purpose of writing it was to motivate and inspire people to make change and become designers of their own lives. That's why I wrote it. And so that is still the same. And, just the stories and how it is slightly different. But I saw it all right there. I was like, okay, guess we're writing a book.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I jumped 2 feet in, which is also very similar to how I do these things. I jumped 2 feet in saying, I'm going to write a book. And I committed that every day I was going to write from 5 to 6. And I hired a book coach, because I was like, what do I know about writing a book? What do I know about publishing a book? I don't know any of this. I don't know anything about any of this universe. So I hired a book coach who was just really helpful in helping me understand, the platform was helpful in helping me understand the process, but he was also helpful in helping me understand how to think about my book and my story and my chapters, and even the basics of how long things should be. I'm like, I don't know. What do I know? I've never done this before.
Yeah.
And I was telling people, they're like, you're really writing a book? I'm like, I'm really writing a book. Wasn't on my bucket list, but here I am, and I'm doing it now.
I love that. And I can so relate, because like I just wrote my first book as well. You can see it here.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
It's like the book cover releases today, and then it's being finally released next week. So it's literally very fresh, hot off the press.
Love it. Congratulations.
Yes. Thank
That's
you.
awesome.
Thank you. But I also self-published, so I can so relate to like, how do you even do this? Like, where do you even start? Like, how long does it need to be? How many words? How many words can I write in an hour? I don't even know. Right. And how do you outline like all of these questions that you have to figure out right at the start before you even start writing?
Right. Exactly. Yep. Yeah. And it's like you have an outline, and I'd get to, like point 4, and I'm like, I don't know that I want to write about that. And then I'd like skip ahead. I'm like, let's move to number 8.
Yeah, that's more exciting.
I'm like, let's move to that chapter instead. And there were some chapters that took a long time to write, because they were hard to write. So, yeah. But it's an interesting journey. And I think anyone who's written a book, and you can probably attest to this too, there's a lot of self-reflection in writing a book. And there's a lot of challenge to your brain and to your skill set, but there's also a huge sense of accomplishment after you've completed it, because you have learned something new.
Oh my gosh, yes. What would you say is like the biggest thing that you learned about yourself with writing the book?
Wow. I think I learned that I am stronger than I thought I was by writing the book,
Mhm.
because it helped me tackle some things that I was struggling with. And so I think I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. And I also learned I'm much more creative than I thought I was. So I always thought I am not a creative person. I can't be in a creative industry. And the reality is that now I am, as an author and a speaker and
Yeah.
an interior designer. It's a very creative industry. And I would have never thought that about myself. But it feels like the right place for me to be, which is interesting. So the book has sort of evolved into this whole speaking journey and a lot of things that I would have never imagined as a result. 5 years ago, I would have never thought that that would be my life. But it feels much more like the space I'm supposed to be in.
I love that so much for you.
Yeah, thanks.
Oh, that makes me so happy for you to hear.
Thank you.
So now I'm wondering, what are you gonna create next?
So right now, so
Or
we
what
are
do you
recording this.
wish
Yeah,
to
no.
create?
Well, I've started to create it, so it's a perfect question. So right now we are in May, and depending on when this launches, so in June I am launching a lifestyle brand, and so I've been working on understanding all of my passions and the things that I love, and what would I really like to do, and what's the impact that I would really like to have. And so I'm launching a lifestyle brand, and my mission is to empower 1 million women to live all in and do that through interior design and personal wellness. And so
Yes.
it is, yeah. So it's a platform, it's a community, it's, interior design, it's my book, it's a podcast. It's building a community. It'll evolve into access to, resources and partnerships with brands that I really like, people that I really like, coaches that I find to be really helpful, because I think people just need a destination to go where they feel like, and it's like this for your podcast. You want a place where people can go and feel inspired and get some resources so that they can take action to become their own designer. And so I'm creating that plus with the interior design part, which just makes it a little bit unique because that doesn't really exist right now with
That's
that.
very
Like
unique.
getting people to understand how their environment plays into their inner wellness as well. And, color, textures, lighting, and so many things. And so it's a slightly different approach. But so that is what I'm working on right now. So that launches in June.
Oh my gosh, that sounds amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah,
I
it's the
can't
House
wait
of
to see
House of
that come to
JerMar.
reality.
Yeah, so it's the House of JerMar. So it
Ooh.
is, yeah, yeah, which should be exciting. And part of it is a result of meeting so many interesting people on podcasts and recognizing that there are so many people out there that are already helping on this mission. And if I can kind of collectively put some of those in one place to give people resources and ideas of where they can go to get access, to get inspired and learn lessons, then that would be really helpful for people.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, that's also why I have this podcast, right? Because I can hear these stories, I can share these stories with others. And I love getting messages from people who are listening or also watching the videos. And they're like, just thank you for sharing these stories and bringing these inspiring people on. And what I especially love about it is bringing also people on who never before were on like a podcast. They have a very small following. Like they would consider themselves nothing special, just a normal person.
Yeah.
But they have such inspiring stories to share. And it's just gold. It's literally, you're listening to gold, and it
Right.
can inspire something so special in others and empower them and motivate them to maybe change their lives too, even if it's just like a little bit. And I
Right.
just love that.
It is. It's so great. And I think it's such a gift to be able to have a public platform to help people connect.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the other reasons that I wrote the book, is to help people feel like they're not alone, and that, someone else has actually been there before and they're not the only ones that are stuck or in that situation. Or like you say, you got divorced right after you got married. And I'm like, oh my goodness, you're part of my tribe. Like I've done
Yes.
some of those crazy things too, where people are like, you did what?
Mhm.
But it helps people feel like they belong to something, and there's a
Yeah.
connection to other people, and then that helps people quiet the self-doubt too, and quiet the noise as well, when they feel like it's not just them and that they're doing these crazy things or thinking these crazy thoughts.
Mm. Amen. I feel like that's the perfect hard to cut off, even though I'm like, oh, I could ask you so many more questions. I will ask you some more questions, but these questions will be like some fire questions that you can answer in one word or a short sentence.
Okay.
Okay. Before we do it, tell me a number between 1 and 10.
7.
Everybody says 7.
Did they really?
So many people say 7.
7 just came up. I have no idea.
I think out of like 10 people, 7 people would say 7.
Really?
Yes.
That's so interesting. And I really didn't even think about it. 7 just was the number that like came up.
I love that. It's a magical number.
Yeah, I guess. Who knows?
So we'll ask you 7 questions. You ready?
Oh wow. Okay. All good.
The first one might be a bit too easy, but maybe you have a different answer to this as well. So what is the Jeanne way to living and leading your best life?
Okay. So yeah, we have my book. I will give a different answer to that. So I think the key to me living my best life is that I have found inner peace, and inner peace is more valuable than happiness. And I have managed to find inner peace. And that means accepting myself in this place that I am in my life right now. And that is something that is so unique and so valuable. And I think if people can tap into the energy of inner peace and find a part of that for themselves, that is life-changing.
I love that. When shit hits the fan, what do you tell yourself to get through it?
That the universe has my back. Say that phrase all the time. It's a great book. Universe has my back.
That's a good one.
It will be okay. It will be okay.
Yes, it always will, literally always.
Yep.
What is your key habit for success?
Meditating and journaling and exercising, like a morning routine. Let's put it all into a morning routine. Exercise. I exercise every day.
Same.
I think it's so important.
Oh, I literally think that will be my next book, because I need to write about like the mindset and exercising, because it makes such a huge difference in your life.
Huge difference in your life and every facet. Yep.
Okay, this one is obviously kind of like a biased question, but what is your favorite book that you would recommend to everyone?
Oh, it's not even mine. My favorite book that I recommend to everyone is called Comeback Careers. And I read it after I got fired, and it changed my life. And so it is a book about people who are stuck or want to change careers or want to come back into the workforce. And it's designed towards women, 30s, 40s, and 50s. And that book changed my life because it really made me think differently about myself, my skill sets, and what I wanted my life to be like. So Comeback Careers. Comeback Careers.
I need to put that on my reading list.
Yeah.
What advice would you love to give the listeners?
Just take one small action every day to make yourself a priority. Sometimes it's hard, especially as women, to make ourselves a priority in our lives. And so it's a practice. And so every day, take one small step to do that. And even if that's 15 minutes sitting on a chair, looking out the window, giving your brain a chance to breathe, do that. And you will find that you will make more and more and more time to make yourself a priority, because if you don't take care of you, no one else will. So you need to make yourself a priority. In order to be the designer of your own life, you have to be able to make yourself a priority in your life every single day.
Yes, I love that. I couldn't agree more. What is the theme song of your life?
Oh, boy.
If you have one.
That would be really difficult. Right now, I will just say a song. So right now, I am learning to play Beautiful Things on the piano, because I'm learning to play the piano in January. I made a commitment that I was going to learn how to play the piano. And so right now, I am learning to play Beautiful Things. And I use that music on an Instagram post one day, and a friend of mine was like, that is the most beautiful song. You need to learn how to play that. And I was like, okay. And so I am. And so right now that kind of like runs through my brain all day, every day. And it is a lot of meaning to me, because I used that song when I announced the launch of my Larger Lifestyle brand as the theme behind it. And so now I've been able to record myself playing it, and I use it in some of my motivational videos in the background. So it's kind of become,
it's so
cool.
Sweet.
Like for me, it's cool to like be like, oh wow, I'm making my own music behind my videos.
Oh my God, that's like next level of production and creativity.
Yeah. So I would say that, that right now, Beautiful Things, the piano version of Beautiful Things is,
I love that.
Right now, my song. Yeah.
Okay, last question. Because you just mentioned something that you want to learn, what is one thing you want to unlearn?
Oh my goodness. That is hard one. One thing I want to unlearn. That's a good one. So I'll give a very vulnerable answer. I think there are times that I can be very critical of people because they don't do things the way that I would do them. And so I am having to work really hard while I'm in new relationships with people and meeting new people and accepting people for who they are. And just because they do things the way that I wouldn't do them doesn't make them wrong. And so I am trying to break that habit for myself of expecting people to do everything the way that I do it, because that means everybody's always failing if that's the bar that you set for everyone. And so I'm trying to break that habit in my relationships.
That is a very vulnerable one.
It's not an easy one, right? Well, because, I'm dating someone and it's like this whole new relationship thing. And I'm like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. You really, and now that I'm in a new industry, I have new friends, there's a lot of newness and a lot of new people in my life. And so learning to not hold a bar for them, which is like, well, I would do it this way, or this is what I would do. Therefore, you need to do it too. That's something I'm working on.
So it's also about letting go of expectations and like attachment to specific outcomes in terms of like how they are being with you.
Correct. Exactly. Yep. So that's a big one. But that's a good growth one because I think it's really important to work on that. I think that's definitely an important one, to let people be themselves and really see their true intent and their true value. And just because everybody doesn't have the same actions to get to that, it's all about what's their intent with things. And if their intent is good, then, for me, stop being so critical, stop being so judgy, and stop being so critical. So I'm my own therapist sometimes. Stop.
Yeah. Same for me. Sometimes I'm coaching myself through things and I'm like, oh gosh, I shouldn't have done that.
Right. Exactly. Right. I'm like, why are you focusing on the thing that didn't happen? What about all the things that did happen, or all the things they did do or they did say? Instead, you're like, but they didn't do that. I'm like, oh, please. Stop. Yeah.
It's like a small negativity bias, I guess, to work through. Yeah.
Which we all have. We all have it. I am no.
It's a natural thing.
It's a natural thing. It is. Yep. We all have stuff to work on.
Absolutely. Jeanne, thank you so much for coming on today. I absolutely loved this conversation. It was so full with nuggets of wisdom, and thank you for being vulnerable. And obviously we have never met before, just through email. So I just want to say I loved how you instantly were open to just share and just be yourself and just come into the space and share your story and share your book. To wrap it up, where can people find you? What do you want to share? Any last words that you want to put out into this world?
So that's so kind of you. So I would love if people would follow me on Instagram. So my handle at Instagram is at House of JerMar. So HOUSE of JerMar, JERMAR. I am incredibly active there. And that's where I'm really trying to build this community of women who believe in my platform, right? Of empowering women to live all in and become the designer of your own life. And so I encourage people to follow me there. They can find me on my website right now, which is JerMarDesigns.com. And you can find my book online anywhere that you would buy it. It's 2 Feet In, Lessons from an All-in Life. The audio version is available as well. I recorded it myself. The ebook is out there. You can buy it in hardcover, softcover. And I encourage people, please buy my book, write a review if you like it. The Amazon algorithm, we as small business owners and self-published people, we really need the algorithm and the help. So buy it, write a review. And by all means, if you want, DM me or email me. I'm happy to, talk to people and love to hear about their journeys and how we connected and my story connected with them. So I encourage people, reach out. And thank you for the chance to be on your podcast. It's been really a pleasure. So thank you for having me.
Of course. No, the pleasure is all mine. I will also put all of the links into the description box below so people can find you easily. And I will also go to Instagram now and follow you.
Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this conversation. And I wish you all the best. I'm still reading your book. I haven't finished it yet because I'm reading it on my laptop. I think I need to actually send it to my Kindle. That will make it easier for me. But I am in awe by what you have already created and by what you will create. And I have zero doubt that you will have a big impact. You will make over a million women happy in this world.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. And thank you for your support and helping me, share my ideas and share my story. So thank you.
Of course. It's a pleasure. It's an honor. Thank you so much. And I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. moment for that. Yes.
Amazing.
Can we pause for 1 second?
Of course.
I'm looking at your beautiful lipstick and I'm like, oh my God, I forgot lip gloss. So early in the morning. Do you mind 1 minute? I'm going to run grab some lip gloss just so I look a little more alive. I totally forgot that.
You look great. What are you talking about?
That's what happened first thing in the morning. Forgot about the lip gloss. 1 second. Thank you.
Okay. No worries.